In today's lesson, you're going to find the distance between the two points, just like we did yesterday. However, today you're not given a graph. You just get the ordered pairs, the location of the 2 points. When we have that, we usually use what's called the distance formula. So the first thing I'm going to do is explain to you what the distance formula is and how it connects to what we've already been doing. Okay, what we would have done yesterday is I told you to draw these lines. Okay, and count, and whenever I counted this one I got 9 and this one is 3. Okay, what the distance formula is going to have you do first, let me write it out. Distance is equal to the square root, and following order of operations, we know you have to work inside of those parentheses first. So the first thing it asks you to do is figure out what's x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So I'm going to show you on the graph where x sub 2 and x sub 1 is. Our x is our horizontal line. So the x sub 1 is the endpoint here. X sub 2 is the endpoint there that I've got marked in blue. So let's look at those. This is where x is 1 and this is where x is 4. So it says take the x sub 2, the 4, take away 1. And what happens when you get 4 take away 1? You get your 3. So it's showing you all you have to do is subtract those x's, the second x minus the first x will give you that horizontal line, okay? All right, now the distance formula will tell you that you're going to have to square those, because think about Pythagorean theorem. Yes, we would square them. We're going to add that number to a second one that gets squared, but we got to do what's inside of the parentheses first. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So let's look at that. I'm going to do it in green. Y is our vertical distance, so you're looking at the endpoints of this line you would draw. Here's your y sub 2 and here's your y sub 1. Well, y sub 2 is negative 4. We're going to subtract y sub 1, which is 5. And negative 4 minus 5, we do get negative 9 instead of positive 9, but it's going to be okay because of the fact we have to square it. Think. 9 squared, 9 times 9, turns out to be 81. Negative 9 squared, negative 9 times negative 9, also turns out to be 81. So it doesn't matter that you're going to get a negative in there. It's still going to give you that positive 81. Okay? So distance formula is telling you how to get those two numbers that we need without seeing a graph. Then think about the Pythagorean theorem. We would have plugged that 9 and 3 into our a and b. We'd say it's equal to c squared. So look at what we would have done after we squared those numbers. After we got 3 times 3 is 9 and 9 times 9 is 81. We would add them together. So it's telling you add them together. Okay. Then what would be the last thing we would get? We would say 81 and 9 is 90. What's our last step? We take the square root. And that's what it's showing you right here. Your last step will just be to take the square root. Okay, so now here's a problem that you'll work today, and let me work this out for you. Show you how this works. First thing is you want to be very careful and make sure you get your things plugged in the right spot. It always goes x, y, x, y. Since this is the first ordered pair, I put 1s here. Since this is the second ordered pair, I put 2s as my subnumber. Remember, subnumbers are just location, the first x versus the second x. Okay, now I'm going to plug into the distance formula, which is distance is equal to the square root of the x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and we have to square it. Then we're going to add to that the y sub 2 minus y sub 1, and then we're going to have to square that. All right, so let's plug those numbers in. All right, x sub 2 is what I need. So x sub 2 is right here, negative 1. And I need to subtract from it x sub 1. Where is x sub 1? It's right here, 8. And we're going to square it. We're going to add together the parentheses. Now I need y sub 2. Here's y sub 2, negative 3. Subtract from it y sub 1. There it is, negative 6. And then we have to square it. All right, be really careful with all these negatives. All right, distance is equal to square root. I'm going to work inside of the parentheses first. So negative 1 minus 8 is negative 9. We're going to have to square it. Add it to. Now this parentheses. Negative 1 minus negative 6. I'm going to have to wake that up or add the opposite, whatever you want to call it, and I get negative 3 plus 6, which is 3, and that's going to get squared. All right, following order of operations. Next step is to square those numbers. I need to think what's negative 9 times negative 9, positive 81. 3 times 3 is 9. At this step, both of those numbers should always turn out to be positive, and it's because we're squaring it, and a negative times a negative is still a positive. So don't make a mistake and get a negative at this point. All right, next step, we add these together. 81 plus 9 is 90. So now it tells us what to do to get our answer. We need to know what's the square root of 90. Well, it's 9.4868. I need to look at that 8 right there to decide how to round. The 8 means round up, so I say it is 9.5.